Alessandra here, and welcome to another episode of Confidence with Ali. I am here with the lovely Kate Osborne today.
Hello.
So, Kate is a mum of three with a 19-year-old, 17-year-old, and 15-year-old. She graduated from the University of Queensland with a double major in psychology. Kate also has a passion for travel and has visited 53 countries. Now, Kate Osborne has her own company where she coaches women for confidence and empowerment. Everyone, please welcome Kate.
Hello. Lovely to be here, Ali. Thanks for taking the time.
No worries, Kate. So let's get straight into it. Are you able to tell me a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. So I'm youngest of six, which is quite significant if you are a sibling. Lots and lots of things happened in my childhood that led me to have to develop confidence. And so anyone with siblings realizes very different to the only child journey. And I went on to university, and one of my brothers was getting married in America. So I deferred my master's degree and started traveling. And that's really where I think my life began at age 21. I had to leave the nest. I had to get out onto the big planet and recognize that you can't really learn about confidence in a book. It's never going to be a university degree. You have to actually go and have some life experience. And so for me, I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend, having nothing to eat and nowhere to live. And there's nothing like being thrown out into the big world to figure out what you're going to do. And so I was attracted to an ad in the paper that said, "Do you have a caring attitude?" And I answered that ad, and it led me to a career which was really interesting, doing care work, looking after very wealthy elderly people in their homes, whilst their families weren't able to provide that level of care. And I ended up looking after a gentleman who had the sixth share in Coca-Cola. And so at 21, I really got my first opportunity to sort of stretch my legs in that psychology degree of behavioral opportunities to ask him a question, which is, what would I have to not do so that I don't end up anything like you? And
I,
so it was a pretty bold question as a 21-year-old. And it sort of came from being the 13th carer for this gentleman who just refused to participate in his own sort of, well-being. And I was so frustrated that he ended up, baiting me. And when I asked that question and said, "How old are you?" and he told me, and I said, "You're miserable." And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I'm miserable too. Can you teach me what never to do so I don't end up like you?" And he said, "We'll start tomorrow." And I think that was the beginning of my journey for confidence, is getting my very first mentor, who happened to be a very wealthy barrister. And his only goal for me was to teach me how to think. And so my journey from that day, from 21 to now I'm 50, has been learning and helping other people to learn how to think.
oh, that is such an amazing story, Kate. It's very empowering,
Well,
definitely.
I think you can end up on the other side of the world and think that, everything's going wrong, but maybe it was exactly how it was always meant to be. And so, I always try to teach my kids, look for opportunity. When you think that everything's going wrong, look outside of yourself and see somebody who might be hurting more than you, or somebody that's sitting in a corner that you can go and serve. And if you care for others and you serve others, often other doors open that you might not have seen. And so, that philosophy is something I really, really want to instill in my kids.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I know you just touched base on struggling with your confidence at 21, moving to the other side of the world. But as you started to get older and start to grow your businesses and your shares in businesses, did you ever lose that confidence again?
Absolutely. I think, confidence, like personal hygiene, it's like saying I had a shower. I did that. I had a shower. You need to shower regularly or you stink, right? So confidence and empowerment, which is, the byproduct of confidence, is a daily ritual and habit. And so for me, I think that, I returned home from traveling to 35 countries and went back to the University of Queensland, who pointed me in the direction to work with a big global startup. And it was so exciting to be able to be, I guess, profiled in a way where they identified my strengths and said, go directly to this organization. And so was still in the era where I thought I would work for one company for the rest of my life. You find that job, you find the man, you get married, you get the job, you tick those boxes off, and nothing ever changes. Well, the company that I was directed to go and work for was Flight Centre Limited. And it was such an exciting time in the 90s. They were growing at 200% per quarter. So it was limitless opportunities. I'd already traveled to 35 countries. I got another 20 or so countries in after that. So, it was a very exciting time, but there was this thing that happened in 2001 where the Twin Towers collapsed. And then Ansett, our partner airline, went down. 30 odd airlines like dominoes, down they fell. And then SARS happened, the first pandemic bird flu in Asia, which locked out all of Asia to be able to travel to. So I lost my confidence because I had this beautiful feathered nest. I had my wonderful team, $7 million turnover. I owned 2 stores. Life was sort of set. And the next phase was going to be, having kids. And so I was sort of on a track, and that whole thing collapsed. And so one of the things that I was blessed with was, I guess, my leadership style is very authentic. And I had been talking to my customers and just sharing with them, as a leader, some of the challenges that we were facing with the insurance work and the rework and the pressures that we were getting from above and below. And one of my clients just said, look, I would really love you to come and work for me. And he just kept contacting me, and I said, why me? And he's like, I've got, over 620 men, but I can't find any women. And I want that style that you have. What makes you so loyal? He was looking for loyalty, and that's what he identified in me. And it's funny, I sort of pointed to this plaque. I was going for this significance award, and he said, well, if you make me, $1 million, I'll buy you a plaque. And it was such a funny thing, Ali. It sort of snapped me out of, where I had been thinking that I had failed, because the industry that I was in had a major shock and, challenge that it was facing. And I realized I had this thought in my mind. I was 27 years old, and I remember thinking, I'm too old to learn anything new. And it was, I laugh at that now. I'm 50. Oh my gosh, 27. You've got so many more years on the planet. But I can tell you that's what felt real for me in that moment. Was I knew the CRM, I knew all my suppliers, I knew, that company so well. What if I wouldn't be successful if I ventured out into the wilderness and tried something different? And so, yeah, I would say that transition from 27 to then starting a whole new career in coaching, when coaching was not even really known. Nobody knew about coaches in 2001. And certainly females were not coaches. It was a male dominated industry of accountants and very cerebral left brained consultants. And so to come in there as a female, heart centered, culture based sales trainer, it was scary, but it was the making of me. So I loved it.
Oh, wonderful, Kate. It's very inspiring to hear, especially that you started at what you thought would be everything, and that you thought
Mm,
that you would continue with, and you had planned down in your head the steps. I'm doing this, and I'm going to have kids and start a family. Then everything changed all of a sudden.
yeah.
But you
Yeah.
built yourself back up.
Like, you can't control. For those of us that are perfectionists and we like control, it's a very difficult lesson to understand failure.
Yeah.
When we perceive failure in that it hasn't worked out the way I imagined that it was going to work out. And so one of the things that was really integral at that age was to redefine failure. And so when I started to get an understanding that, failure for me is staying in bed for 24 hours straight. And it's almost impossible because at some point I would have to get up and go to the toilet, so I couldn't stay in bed for 24 hours. So my definition was impossible to achieve. As soon as I put my feet on the floor, winning, she's winning, she's winning. Okay, so you want to make winning is breathing. If I wake up and I'm breathing, I'm winning. So, to switch the bar that it's almost impossible to fail and it's almost impossible not to win. And to redefine those two really important elements that in school we're taught only the top three people get a medal and only this and
Mm.
only that. So I think that was a big deal where I felt out of my depth, but I actually embraced the change and put my whole self into that change process.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to change it up a bit because your story, my next two questions that I had for you have been answered. So I want to switch it up a bit. I know that you have three kids.
Yes.
Again, a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 15-year-old. I wanted to know if there was a time that you felt out of depth, but if there was a time that you know that you and your kids may have felt out of depth, and then going on from that, what you did to help improve that situation.
Oh my goodness. I think, when kids are little, there's different challenges that you face. We were in a situation, we were living in Brisbane, and we had a company that, had scaled quite large. So we had, a large team at Park Road at Milton, and the company was functioning really, really well. And then they cut all my franchise agreements. Just,
Wow.
just because there wasn't any legal recourse in a sense because it gets to the point in business where it's he said she said and how much money do you want to throw at lawyers. And my husband and I had to make that decision that we knew where we wanted to be in 10 years. So we'd always set ourselves a goal to live on the Gold Coast. That was something I knew from age 14. I used to come with my family for 2 weeks at Mermaid Beach on Hedges Avenue. We'd have the worst house in the best street on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. And it was one of those bring your friends. We had this wonderful 2 weeks. And I said to my mother, I'm going to live here one day. And she was sort of like, no, that would ruin it. It's a real holiday destination. But to me, I thought that was success to me. And so, we were tracking towards that goal. But I think this fast tracked the goal because I would have been constrained with my employees, with my coaches, we had 90 clients on a retainer. We were running events for Westpac and Commonwealth Bank and all sorts of things. Suddenly I was free through nothing that I had to do. I was just free. And I had, this opportunity to be a mother. And I could redefine what being a mother looked like. And so we were sitting at ballet and we could all see our life in front of us. All the mums were saying, our kids will play netball here and they'll play rugby there and they'll go to this school because that's the way we'd all been trained. And we decided to play this game. If you could change the script, what would you change? And when it got to my turn, I said I would move to the Gold Coast. And these four women just looked at me and said, well, you're the only one who can do this. You need to do it for all of us. You need to
Yeah.
change up the script. And I rang our general manager at the time and said, could I move to the Gold Coast? And she said, you could move to Hawaii. Your business can work from wherever you want it to work. And that was really freeing, but it was scary.
Yeah.
It was freeing but scary. And it was scary for my husband when I got home from ballet and said, we're moving to the Gold Coast. And he was like, what? What happened at ballet? And I called the schools and we were doing interviews. And so to really drive that vision was very difficult. And I think it was hard for the kids to say goodbye to their cousins and grandparents and everything that they knew and set up in a whole new environment.
Yeah.
But once again, no risk, no reward.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
benefits of growing up on the Gold Coast and now, my kids wouldn't change it. The experiences they've had, the opportunities that we've developed because we left the nest meant that they could redefine what their skills and talents were. and they're involved in things that we wouldn't have done if we'd stayed in Brisbane. So yeah, I think that was our biggest struggle, but it turned out to be one of our greatest opportunities.
Lovely, Kate. No, I like the fact that you said that a great risk, great reward.
Yeah, yeah, no
Because
risk, no reward.
yeah, because 100%, like sometimes it's not that way at all. Sometimes it's safer to not take the risk and to stay in your comfort zone. But I agree with you in that sense that sometimes you have to take that leap of faith and that risk for what you want.
Mm.
Sometimes it may not be what you think you need, but sometimes what you want is what you need.
Well, I think you only know that in hindsight, Ali. Like looking back, it's so much easier to tell that story than looking, scarily forward in the
Yeah.
time. And with all the resistance from my family, especially my parents, of just, are you crazy? What are you doing? Why would you even consider this? It's an opportunity to be able to challenge what you actually believe about vision. If you set
Yeah.
a vision for yourself and say, this is what I want, are you willing to back yourself to be able to deliver that? And that's a daily exercise, as I said, like showering. It's a daily activity because every day new opportunities come and we lose our confidence again. And we have to tell ourselves, it's worked out in the past. Why don't I assume it's going to work out right now?
Yeah. I think it's definitely something for a lot of people to think on as well.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
obviously you just spoke about how you were at ballet and the other mums were like, you're the only one that can do this for yourself. And you made that decision. This is what I want. This is what I think I need.
Yeah.
To everyone watching, it worked out for you, Kate, to make that decision. You're like, nah, this is what I want. This is what I need. I'm going to do it. I want to let the viewers know as well to think about it too, but
Mm.
don't think yourself out of it, if that makes sense.
It's interesting, I've got a methodology for how I coach. It's like a treble cleft because to me, music was my big driver. I used to listen to music as a young girl and I'd put on shows for my family and we'd do, dancing and we'd sell tickets, fake tickets and things and put on little shows. So singing and performing was always something that was really important. And so my methodology is teaching women how to make music in everything they do. So, where I am a mother, but I'm a wife and I'm a daughter and I'm a sister and I'm a business coach and I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a marketing manager and I'm a finance manager. How do we make sure that's a symphony and not just a cacophony of noise? Right? So we need to be able to find the rhythm. If you think about music, the tempo, how
Mm-hmm.
does that work? And so in that treble clef, we start with the vision, but then we've got to change. We've got to go through that roller coaster. If anyone's been on, that DC roller coaster, it's terrifying at Movie World. It just seems to go for way too long, but it throws your stomach in places that you're not happy with. And that's the change process. It's never meant to feel like it's a comfort zone.
Yeah.
But if you don't get the thinking right, you can drop off the bottom of the treble clef and become a real victim in your thinking. Woe is me. How come she's luckier than me? They've got it easier than me. No, for people that have gone through the change process, there's nothing safe and easy about it. You might make it look safe on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or wherever your chosen social media is. But even what you're doing today, Ali, is really out of your comfort zone. So, credit to you for reaching out and having a conversation. Your trajectory will change because you'll have these 30-minute conversations with women who've done it. And even if nobody watches this, you will still benefit. So you don't worry about the external world. Don't panic about likes and shares. Just soak it up and maybe you'll listen to it again when you're 50.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I have two more questions for you,
Yes.
Kate.
Terrific.
The first one is, can you please share with us one tip that you wish you had at the beginning of all of this?
Yes, I definitely think my one tip would be tell the truth with compassion. I think sometimes I've told the truth to people, but I've lacked the compassion. And then there's been times that I've tried to protect people by not telling them the truth.
Mm.
And that's got me in huge amounts of trouble in terms of, on planet Earth, we know that problems with gravity come back and get bigger and bite you on the butt.
Yeah.
And so whenever I've tried to protect somebody by telling them my truth, that's been to a huge detriment to me and my soul. So that would be my encouragement to people is, just tell the truth, your truth, how, the story I'm telling myself right now, and then tell it with compassion for yourself and for the other person.
Wonderful. And my last question for you, a little bit of a curveball. What
Yeah,
is one piece of advice you would tell your future self?
you're enough exactly as you are. In this moment, whatever's going on, you're enough.
Oh, that's beautiful. And building on that, just a little sneak attack question. Why would you say that to your future self?
Well, I think in the research, what we learned in psychology, especially child psychology, is there's two limiting beliefs. And the limiting beliefs that hold women back is I'm unworthy and I'm not enough. And so I think that when we aim to be able to become more, so whether that's, that we want to have a tertiary education, you want to have travel, you want a personal trainer, you want a career, you want a husband or a wife or a significant partner, and you want children, there comes this time where that container has to get smashed down and reformed because every single time you add another layer of complexity, there is this breaking that happens. And it can be a healthy breaking. So you break apart from your previous identity, or maybe you break with tradition of what other people did. But there's this breakdown that happens. And so we've got to continue to remind ourselves, I'm enough to cope with the breaking.
Yeah, I think that is very, very wise. Very wise. I'm trying to think of the correct word for it, but I think
Well, wisdom is one of my goals. So
there we
I
go. Wisdom.
100% complimented that you said that that sounded wise because, that's a wonderful compliment to me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on today, Kate.
My pleasure. I hope that somebody got some value from that. And if you did, keep listening in to Ali's podcast because we need more young, confident women teaching us how to be more confident humans. And it's always wonderful just to connect. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Kate's socials and her website will be posted below. Go check her out. Feel free to get in contact with her if you have any questions as well. I'm sure she would be more than happy to have a chat with a lot of you.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Stay tuned because the next episode will be out sooner than you think. And I hope you all have a lovely day.